Story 62 of the Fairy Ring. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Ashwin Jain. The Fairy Ring, edited by Kate Douglas Wiggin and Nora Archibald Smith. Story 62. Muchie. Once upon a time there were a Raja and Rani who had no children. Long had they wished and prayed that the gods would send them a son, but it was all in vain. Their prayers were not granted. One day a number of fish were brought into the royal kitchen to be cooked for the Raja's dinner, and among them was one little fish that was not dead, though all the rest were dead. One of the palace maid servants, seeing this, took the little fish and put him in a basin of water. Shortly afterwards, the Rani saw him, and, thinking him very pretty, kept him as a pet. And because she had no children, she lavished all her affection on the fish, and loved him as a son. And the people called him Muchie, the fish prince. In a little while, Muchie had grown too long to live in the small basin, so they put him in a larger one, and then, when he grew too long for that, into a big tub. In time, however, Muchie became too large for even the big tub to hold him, so the Rani had a tank made for him in which he lived very happily, and twice a day she fed him with boiled rice. Now, though the people fancied Muchie was only a fish, this was not the case. He was, in truth, a young Raja who had angered the gods and been turned by them into a fish and thrown into the river as a punishment. One morning, when the Rani brought him his daily meal of boiled rice, Muchie called out to her and said, Queen Mother, I am so lonely here all by myself. Cannot you get me a wife? The Rani promised to try and sent messengers to all the people she knew to ask if they would allow one of their children to marry her son, the fish prince. But they all answered, We cannot give one of our dear little daughters to be devoured by a great fish, even though he is the Muchie and so high in your Majesty's favor. At news of this, the Rani did not know what to do. She was so foolishly fond of Muchie however, that she resolved to get him a wife at any cost. Again, she sent out messengers, but this time she gave them a great bag containing 1,00,000 of gold mohurs, and said to them, Go into every land until you find a wife for my Muchie and to whoever will give you a child to be the Muchie Rani, you shall give this bag of gold mohurs. The messengers started on their search, but for some time they were unsuccessful. Not even the beggars were to be tempted to sell their children, fearing the great fish would devour them. At last one day, the messengers came to a village where there lived a fakir who had lost his first wife and married again. His first wife had one little daughter, and his second wife also had a daughter. As it happened, the fakir's second wife hated the little stepdaughter, always gave her the hardest work to do and the least food to eat, and tried by every means in her power to get her out of the way in order that the child might not rival her own daughter. When she heard of the errand on which the messengers had come, she sent for them when the fakir was out, and said to them, "Give me the bag of gold mahurs, and you shall take my little daughter to marry the Muchie Raja." For she thought to herself, "The great fish will certainly eat the girl, and she will thus trouble us no more." Then turning to her stepdaughter, she said, "Go down to the river and wash your sari, that you may be fit to go with these people who will take you to the Rani's court." At these words, the poor girl went down to the river very sorrowful, for she saw no hope of escape, as her father was from home. As she knelt by the riverside, washing her sari and crying bitterly, some of her tears fell into the hole of an old seven-headed cobra who lived on the river bank. This cobra was a very wise animal, and seeing the maiden, he put his hand out of his hole and said to her, "Little girl, why do you cry?" "Oh, sir," she answered, "I am very unhappy, for my father is from home, and my stepmother has sold me to the Rani's people to be the wife of the Muchie Raja, that great fish, and I know he will eat me up." "Do not be afraid, my daughter," said the cobra, "but take with you these 3 stones, and tie them up in the corner of your sari." And so saying, he gave her 3 little round pebbles. "The Muchie Raja, whose wife you are to be, is not really a fish, but a Raja who had been enchanted. Your home will be a little room which the Rani has had built in the tank wall. When you are taken there, wait, and be sure you don't go to sleep, or the Muchie Raja will certainly come and eat you up. But as you hear him coming rushing through the water, be prepared, and as soon as you see him throw his first stone at him, he will then sink to the bottom of the tank. The second time he comes, throw the second stone. When the same thing will happen, the third time he comes, throw this third stone, and he will immediately resume his human shape." So saying, the old cobra dived down again into his hole. The fakir's daughter took the stones, and determined to do as the cobra had told her, though she hardly believed it would have the desired effect. When she reached the palace, the Rani spoke kindly to her, and said to the messengers, "You have done your errand well. This is a dear little girl." Then she ordered that she should be let down the side of the tank in a basket to a little room which had been prepared for her. When the fakir's daughter got there, she thought she had never seen such a pretty place in her life, for the Rani had caused the little room to be very nicely decorated for the wife of her favorite, and she would have felt very happy away from her cruel stepmother and all the hard work she had been made to do, had it not been for the dark water that lay black and unfathomable below the door, and the fear of the terrible Muchie Raja. After waiting some time, she heard a rushing sound. The little waves came dashing against the threshold. Fast they came and faster, and the noise got louder and louder, until she saw a great fish's head above the water. Muchie Raja was coming toward her open mouth. The fakir's daughter seized one of the stones that the